for some time.
Herzlich willkommen zum heutigen Radiotag. Graham Gill, zum wiederholten Male unser ständiger und beliebter Gast. Und an meiner anderen Seite Chet Reuter. Wir wollen sprechen über den Trip zu dem Red Sand Fort. Ihr habt ja vorhin das Video alle gesehen, oder die meisten von euch haben das Video gesehen. Und das Interview soll jetzt dazu dienen, ein bisschen mehr an Hintergründe noch zu erfahren. Auch zu der Geschichte von Radio 390. Schade, dass Robin Banks heute nicht da sein konnte. Er hätte uns sowohl zur Geschichte dieses komisch anmutenden Forts etwas erzählen können, als auch zur eventuell weiteren Zukunftsperspektive, was er ja zum Teil letztes Jahr auch schon angedeutet hat. Graham, Radio 390, it wasn't the first station you have worked for.
Oh no, the very first one was Big L Radio London on the Galaxy. It was when I just arrived in London in March of 19. That's almost what now. I arrived in March 1966 in London, and I hadn't expected to be working for Radio London at all, in actual fact, because I was just coming over to see England and Europe generally have a working holiday and go back home. But I was flatting with 3 other theatrical gents at Nevern Square, which is in the southwest part of London. And they all had the one manager, and I'd been with them for about a week. And they introduced me when their manager came, and they said, "Oh, by the way, this is Graham Gill. He's a radio presenter from Australia." And the first thing the manager said was, "Well, can you work tonight?" I said, "Well, I said, but really, I just managed to arrive here. I wanted to have a bit of rest and 3 weeks holiday. Then I'd think about maybe looking for something at the BBC." And the manager said, "Piece of cake. Wimbledon Palais, Friday, Saturday night, Dusty Springfield, the Small Faces, and Rod Stewart. All you could do is introduce them, spin a few records in between. £25. So I thought, well, that's quite a lot of money for such a short venue. There was a lot of money in those days. And so I did that, and that was the beginning of my radio career, working for Big L Radio London.
Soon afterwards you went to Radio England, another ship.
Yes, that was right. I've got an offer from Don Pearson. In actual fact, we were coming back in the bus. We came off the Galaxy ship, and Don Pearson happened to have one of those big Greyhound buses standing empty at Harwich port, where we came off the ship, you know. And he said, "Hey, you guys, don't take the train up to London, you can ride with me on the bus." And so we said, "Oh, thank you very much." We got on the bus, and as it happened, he sat next to me and he said, "I've heard you on Radio 1. How'd you like to work for Radio England?" And I said, "Well," I don't know. I said, I've been with Radio London now for some time, about 4 or 5 weeks, and I like it there. Well, keep us in mind, we've got Marvis in the Hilton Hotel." So I said, "All right, okay." Well, as it turned out, after a lot of consideration and a few things happening, I finished up at the Hilton Hotel and dutifully ran into Don Pearson there and Bill Vick, and they offered me to come out on the laissez-faire. The Olga Patricia had 2 names, I'm not sure which was the first one, or, excuse me, Swinging Radio England and Britain Radio. And so there I was with Roger Day, Johnny Walker, Cole Nichol and myself. We were the Anglican or Anglicised presenters. I came from Australia, so did Cole Nichol, and Roger Day and Johnny Walker came from the North England, you know. Then at that particular time, things were going along, but there were a lot of things going on in the background which I didn't take much notice of. Business problems, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden Radio England became became Radio 355, and Britain Radio became Radio Dolphin. And we had then a fellow called X Harding working out there. He was put in charge of it. He was a young Dutch guy, kid out of school. I mean, I never actually criticised him very much, except for the fact that he thought he knew all about radio. And I mean, I was in broadcasting before he was born. And not that that mattered particularly, but when he started throwing his weight around a bit, you know, then I got a bit fed up with the situation, and I just decided to leave there.
So that was the point when going to Radio 390?
Almost, yes, almost. During that particular time, I came off the laissez-faire, and in the Piccadilly, it's a pub in the Piccadilly there, the Shaftesbury actually, the Shaftesbury Hotel. I went to Jack McLaughlin. Jack was working on 390 at the time. He said, "Hey Graham," he said, "your name's been mentioned for Radio 390 because we heard you'd left Radio England. But," he said, they want to meet you, but you won't be able to start, if they're happy with you, until about another 3 or 4 weeks. But he said, "I've got an idea," he said, because Jack knew much about hotels, he drank quite a bit. Well, you know, we had a few here and there. Jack would come to a pub and he'd put a bottle of whiskey on the table, and during the whole evening he drank the whole bottle. Amazing. But anyway, so we discussed. He said, "I know a pub in Chelsea called the Wren House. They're looking for somebody there to just serve the beer, you know." So I did that for 3 weeks, made the gin and tonics, made the Guinness, made the beer, and then at the right time I went to 35 Bessemer Place, where the offices of Radio 390 were. It was above a perfume factory in Bessemer Place, down by Victoria. And he said, "You'll have to meet Peter James and Josephine, his secretary." And he said, "I think you'll get along with both of them, but they want to hear you first, you know." So I went down to Bessemer Place and met Josephine and also Peter James, and they said, "Right, Graham, well, we know your radio history, but let's hear your voice." And at that particular time I had more of an Australian accent, you know, like that. Which is now, of course, mellowed after all those years. And when I was there, they said, "Just say this, please." They gave me a piece of paper with written on it, "Radio 390, your British family station with Eve, the woman's magazine of the air." So I said, "This is Radio 390 with Eve, the woman's magazine of the air." And people say, "No, a bit more sophisticated, more English, more live." So I said, "Okay. This is Radio 390, your British family station with Eve, the woman's magazine of the air. We're getting there, but perhaps a bit more." Christ, what does this fellow want? Because I've also been an actor in the theatre in Australia many years ago too. I've done all that, and I've done radio acting. Excuse me. Because we had to learn that, there was no television in those days. And anyway, so I said, "Okay, one more time." He said, "Right, this is Radio 390, your British family station with Eve, the woman's magazine of the air." Wonderful, wonderful. "Where can you go out?" I said, "Whatever you want." That's how it was. Yeah. So consequently, I was out on the Red Sands forts, working with some other great colleagues, and we've got some pictures to show you in a few minutes, and I can tell you all the different ones, and you can ask questions about them if you like. And it was one of the great experiences in my life.
Graham, you had made the experience of being on 2 radio ships.
Yeah.
So what was your impression when getting on this fort?
Well, I was rather impressed in actual fact, because Because in the first place, working on the ship, I'd only worked on Radio England, Britain, Radio London on the Galaxy, and then Radio England, Britain Radio on the laissez-faire, or the Patricia, whichever name you want to give it. In actual fact, it was, a lot of people don't know this, the old Patricia or laissez-faire, the ship that was from Britain Radio, Radio England, was an old Liberty ship. They used to bring the dead corpses back in the Second World War on it, and they say it was haunted, so it said.
Korean War.
Was it? It was one of those wars, yes. But your question was, again?
Your impression on the fort.
The impression on the fort. Compared to the ships, I was never seasick anyway, so that didn't bother me. But it was living like luxury. It was like in the way, like living sort of in a hotel, you know. Occasionally, if the sea was very, very rough, there'd be a slight shudder now and again, you know. But this was on the actual tower that was further out, which is where we slept.
You had 7 different towers.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember which tower was used for broadcasting?
This one here. The middle one.
The one in the middle.
Yeah.
So here you had the antenna.
Yeah, that's the transmitter room. We had a transmitter room with a transmitter. Over here was that's where we ate. That's where that was where Jeff cooked those wonderful hotel meals for us. And here we slept. These two here.
So at these days.
Oh, we had a record library. I thought the record library was there.
Ah, yes.
Nearest one to the studio.
So at these days you had these sort of stairs where you can
walk over.
Walk over. Yeah.
But we were told, especially in rough weather, sometimes they just go a little bit like the wind had blown them. You know, you have to be very, very careful on a windy day when you walked across.
I always wondered, how was it when getting to this fort with a tender ship? How was it possible to climb on board?
Well, they used to winch us up with a thing like it. It was a platform, which was on a rather large piece of thick rope, and they pull it up like that. Well, they turned it up with a machine thing like that.
Yes.
There's a photograph of it.
So it wasn't too dangerous.
Well, in actual fact, I never get seasick, but I am afraid of heights. So I must confess that on a windy day, it was a bit dodgy, but we managed, you know.
So did you never use this normal access, which has been rebuilt nowadays?
No, because it wasn't in use then. You see.
I see.
Okay. It wasn't in use.
So the pirate radio stations of the 60s were pop radio, and Radio 390 wasn't pop radio. It was a sort of BBC light program.
Yes, it was indeed. Yes, we had some wonderful programs. I mean, there was Serenade, as you probably heard there. There was Tea Time Tunes. You know, nice little melodies you could play while you're having your tea and biscuits. For those that like to fiddle or play, there was Masters of the Organ. Then we had Around the Bandstand, we played military marches. There was a program called Country Style, which they got me to do, which was later taken over by David Allen. And I complained to Peter James that he talked too much and that there should be more access on the music. And we disagreed on that, and so firstly they gave it to me, then they took it off me and they gave it back to me. So that was that. And the other programs, of course, is Eve, and then there's Magazine of the Air, it was that. And well, it was a happy family atmosphere there. It was, we all got along famously well together. And
so you like the station?
yes, very much. Oh yes, very professional station, 390.
Eve,
Yes.
Eve, Woman's Magazine of the Air, was it the envelope for many programs, or was it just a
No,
program?
she
I
did
think it was the envelope between
she did a
8 o'clock
program
in the morning and...
Well, it's just she did a thing in a program in the morning, which she gave out some of these horoscopes, you know, but most of them were lousy horoscopes anyway. She did it, but yeah, you know, it was a sponsor, so I mean, she paid for the time on the air, so that was all right. You know.
So the station was aiming at housewives and 40 plus.
Housewives and 40 plus, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The morning programs were for the housewives. Afternoon was, yeah, there was, it was just mostly music and aimed at the housewives in the morning, and the afternoon was for general consumption. We tried to talk Peter James into letting us do some top 40 music, and no, we can't have any top 40 on 390. And finally, Alan Clark talked him into having a half hour of hit tunes. So, oh yes, that'd be a good idea, hit tunes, yeah. Like the old days.
But what about Mike and Mandy Raven? Have they been with the station when you were there? Or? Because they had a rhythm and blues program in the evening.
Yes, but it was taped. That was taped.
That was taped.
That was a taped program. But the general atmosphere on the forts was perfect. There was no bitching or arguing or fighting, which often went on a lot of the other ships. You know,
Yes.
it's everybody got really well, got along really well together. There was no problem there at all.
Did you have a cook or even a sort of captain on this fort?
Well, no. We had a chief announcer. That was usually depending on different, alternating on different things. Paul Beresford on one week, and Jonathan Hall the other. And it was 1 week on, 1 week off, 1 week on, which was great because with the pirates you had, in most cases, you had 2 weeks on and sometimes 2 weeks off or a week off. But it was great because with 390 you could get back on land a bit more often, you know, which was quite pleasant.
And the tenders, they came regularly?
Oh, very regularly, yes. And I've got a little picture you'll see in a minute of one of the tenders coming out with Doug and Kay and their son. They used to bring supplies out from the shore, from Folkestone. Whitstable or Folkestone?
No, I think Folkestone is on the canal.
Whitstable.
Yeah, that is.
Whitstable.
So this morning I have printed out a list of 34 DJs working for Radio 390,
yes.
and I think you might now show your
Pictures?
pictures.
Very well, and if you pop them on, I will tell you which ones they are.
Graham, I've got a question.
Yes, yes.
Going back to Britain Radio and Radio England, some sources say that the accommodation on board was rather poor.
Well,
Some sources say they had transmitters and generators, but they didn't have enough cabins for the people to sleep in.
that is true, yes.
Something like that.
Yes, yes, that's true.
Could you confirm that?
Yes,
Or
yes.
deny it?
No, they're right. We had to double up sometimes, but we managed, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That's because of the shortage of cabins. But, yeah.
And I forgot another question.
Yeah.
Thunder and lightning
Yes.
on Radio 390, was it a problem?
No.
With the flashes coming in?
I don't,
With this metal fort, that must have been a problem.
I don't recall any of that, but it probably happened, but probably when I was maybe down below or in bed or something. You know.
And on the ships?
Oh, you mean you mean on the forts? You mean?
Yes.
Oh, I don't recall anything there being of any. Well, I don't recall anything like that happening, but possibly it did, of course. Yes.
So it won't be that problem in your time.
No. But in those days, as Radio 390 always closed down at 12 o'clock midnight, while the other pirate stations kept on going around the clock 24 hours. And 390 always closed down, as did like the BBC, by closing down and saying we'll be back on the air tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. And they'd say good night and they'd play the national anthem, God Save the Queen. This was on one of those cartridge things, spot masters. You press the button and pop it off, you know. And Jack McLaughlin was on one particular evening, and he was glad to get out of the studio and get upstairs and have a drink. And he said goodnight and pressed the spot master, God Save the Queen. And that was it, that he, for some reason, something went wrong with the spot master. And the ship's engineer was also up there having a drink. And right throughout the whole night, the God Save the Queen must have been played over 100 times. And it was put in the papers the next day with what had happened. That was one of the funny things that happened there.
The Queen got stuck.
Yes, she did, certainly at that particular time, yes. Yes, indeed.
Do you remember that the station had any theme tune?
I can't recall actually. I know Radio 390, Britain, well, I know Radio North Sea did. They had one, but I don't recall one on Britain Radio, Radio England, or Radio London. Well, they had their Big L jingles, didn't they? They had that.
Interval signal, the xylophone on top of the hour.
Yeah.
Ding, dong, dong.
Oh, we had those, yes, the
Yes,
gongs, yes,
yes.
that was wonderful. That was just like Australian radio, that was steam radio, stone radio, I like that was good.
Very nice, old-fashioned.
Yes. Well, you see, Radio 390 was based on what you call a block programming format, which means a half hour of this, or 45 minutes of that, or 1 hour of that, or 2 hours of this. And the last radio station I worked at in Australia was also Radio 2RG. That was also programmed, was block programming. Sometimes we'd have Dr. Paul and the Housewives show. I did that for 10 years, the Housewives show on 2RG. But it was based basically on Australian radio programming. But of course, in Australian radio, we had easy listening stations like that. And also, the top 40 stations were just sort of getting together as I left Australia. You know, with top 40 had been coming into you get a top 40 station like, say, 3UZ in Melbourne. That's where I began. But it wasn't a top 40 station when I first began there. I was very young. And the opposite station in Sydney would be 2SM. They were also doing top 40s music, and also 2GB with John Laws, who's much older than me now, but I think he's still doing something in radio. I think. Excuse me. Yes.
Okay, so second try to get the pictures here on the screen.
Yes, if you can pause them in. If you can pause them in between, because then I can tell you exactly who's there, you see.
Haben die uns verstanden?
Ja, nochmal eine Zwischenfrage. Sollen wir dann direkt mit dem Film weitermachen oder die...
Ja, Graham würde jetzt erst am liebsten eben seine...
Ja, ist klar.
Ja,
und dann anschließend dann direkt die...
Dann,
oder
dann stelle ich euch noch ein paar Fragen zu eurem Trip.
Okay.
Ach so, gut machen.
Ja.
So what are you going to do now then?
We hope that the pictures will be coming now. Vielleicht schon ein paar Fragen noch dazu. Wie war das mit eurem Trip? War das schwierig, da hinzukommen? Musste man das lange vorher schon vorbuchen oder planen oder so?
Ja, Robin arbeitet ja als Freelance HF-Techniker, Hochfrequenztechniker, und kann deshalb, er weiß nicht ganz genau, wann er jetzt Zeit hat, ne? Weil manchmal wird er rausgerufen und also wir haben das mal auf gut Glück gemacht und hatten das Glück, dass er dann also auch 2 Tage für uns Zeit hatte, ja. Aber aus den 2 Tagen sind dann des schlechten Wetters wegen sind dann halt 4 Tage geworden. Und er war so nett und ist dann also trotzdem noch da geblieben, weil er wohnt ja weiter im Norden, in Mittelengland. Und dann ist er also, ja, dann haben wir also noch das Caroline-Studio besucht, an dem Tag, wo wir einfach rausfahren wollten. Da war auch die BBC eingeladen, also die wollte einen Filmbericht machen über die ersten deutschen Touristen auf dem Red Sand Fort. Aber das ging dann nicht, weil halt, ja, und dann...
Vielleicht noch mal kurz in Erinnerung gerufen, für diejenigen, die nicht so ganz eingeweiht sind, diese Forts sind ja gemacht worden, um die deutschen Angreifer abzuhalten vom britischen Gebiet. Und,
Um London vor den deutschen Bomben zu schützen.
Richtig, und insofern seid ihr also die ersten Deutschen auf diesem britischen Armeefort
Das kann
gewesen.
sein.
Ja, zumindest darauf
Ja.
Ja, und dann sind wir halt.
Wie lange dauert so ein Trip?
Wie viel haben wir gewonnen? Eine Stunde, ne?
Der hat ganz schön Gas gegeben und ja, es war
Stunde.
einfach eine Stunde.
Man wird nicht seekrank.
Nee, also wir sind, gut, da gibt es ja mehrere Möglichkeiten da rauszukommen.
Ja.
Wir sind ja schon mal gefahren, da sind wir mit dem Schiff, mit dem Fischerboot gefahren und da konnten wir auch nicht rauf natürlich, da gab es diesen Exzess noch nicht. Und da haben wir also 2,5 Stunden gebraucht. Ne, dahin. Und jetzt sind wir mit, es war allerdings ganz glatte, ruhige See,
Ja.
und sind wir mit dem Segelboot rüber, nur es konnte nicht gesegelt werden, weil der Wind fehlte. Also musste er den Motor, und dann haben wir ungefähr 3-4 Stunden gebraucht.
Nun steht dieses Ding da seit 63 Jahren und da hat die Zeit ihre Spuren hinterlassen. Nicht? Was hattet ihr für einen Eindruck dann?
Ja, also das sieht
Für
so
die Zeit auch die Vögel.
Die
Genau,
Vögel,
genau. Also da sind in den 60ern sind die Fenster offen gelassen worden von diesen Forts und dadurch sind also die ganzen Seagulls reingeflogen und haben dort auch gebrütet und haben halt Fische aus dem Wasser geholt und sind also in diese Forts und haben dort die ganzen Gräten und die liegen da alle noch rum, ne? Muss man also sehen. Aber das sieht ja so aus, das Project Red Sands will ja diese ganze Geschichte trotzdem erhalten. Und die sind natürlich sehr darauf angewiesen auf Sponsors. Das heißt also, die hatten Molen Marine, eine große Firma, die halt, was machen die jetzt alles ganz genau, weiß ich gar nicht, was die machen. Also die konstruieren verschiedene Geschichten, Stahlgerüste und so. Und die sind dort mit ganz schwerem Equipment rausgefahren und haben dort ein neues Access-System, also einen neuen Zugang haben die dort geschaffen. Und das haben die alles umsonst gemacht. Ne? Und solche Sachen versucht man also da in die Reihe zu bekommen. Und zurzeit geht es also darum, dass man jetzt die Brücken erneuern will, auf jeden Fall 2 Brücken zunächst, sodass 2 weitere Türme erreichbar sind. Und dazu hat man jetzt Proben erstmal ins Laboratorium gebracht, wo man also muss also feststellen, wie tragfähig diese Träger da an diesen Forts noch sind, damit die neuen Brücken halt dann auch halten.
Okay, ich denke, wir machen gleich noch kurz weiter.
Ja, klar.
Jetzt sind die Bilder da.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
Your
okay,
commentary.
this is the transmitting tower, as you can see, with the mast at the top. I don't know exactly how many meters it is. You could probably work it out better than I. I was never very good at mathematics, but that's where the transmitters were in there, and it was a very powerful, I think the most powerful of all the pirate offshore stations during my time there. Here is, on this particular photograph, you can see the Red Sands Fort, or Radio 300 in the background. This photograph was taken the morning after we closed the station down. And here, from the left to the right, links naar rechts, with the tie on in the corner, that's Lawrence Bean. He was the head engineer there. And the guy with the white T-shirt is me. And on the other side here was one of the directors under Ted Albury, who was more or less in charge of doing final arrangements of all sorts of things that one does when one does organisation, if you know what I mean, if you can work that out. And on the right, the very extreme right, is Roger Scott, who later became known as Arnold Lane on Radio North Sea International. Here you have on the left Sinkers, or David we called him Sinkers, his name was David Sinclair. The middle, I'm not too sure what his name was. I think the middle one, he was one of the guys that worked in the record library. On the right, with the captain's hat on, is Jonathan Hall. Well, that's also, I think, rather, we must be coming off the tender because the photograph's taken that way, or maybe we're going out there, I'm not sure. But or the photograph, but they're the people on the thing there. This is in the studio. Links Narex, that's me at the very extreme left. Then you've got Roger Scott, and on microphone there is Edward Cole. Sadly, Edward passed away several years ago. After 390 closed down, he went to work for the BBC. He did quite a lot of on-air work and also production. But he passed away several years ago. That's myself on the left and Roger Scott on the right. It was taken in the good days. I think I'd been at the station about a month, 4 or 5 weeks when that picture was taken. You might note the fashions that changed a bit. Because, my hair was very short in those days.
Oh, that's
That's
R&I.
Yeah, this one's got a bit mixed up. This is Andy Archer and yours truly. This was when we were on Radio Caroline, I thought. It's Caroline.
In the hippie days.
Yeah, we're either going or coming to the Mi Amigo at that particular time. Yeah. Now this is I think the photo taken of. I thought it was the last reunion that we ever had. On the extreme left is Lawrence Bean. Then you've got I'm not in this picture. Then you've got that's Edward Cole, and I presume that's probably his wife down there, or his sister or somebody. The ladies, I'm not sure because I was not there. Probably the wives or girlfriends. With the tie in the middle is John, and the glasses, that's Jonathan Hall. Beside him is Jeff the cook, looking very suave in his costume and everything. That's Roger Scott there. The lady here, I'm not sure who she is, or the gentleman there, or those. He was one of the directors under Ted Albury, this one here. And this one is Alan Clark. Alan got to do the hit parade show that would be just between 5:30 and 6
He
every
was
night.
with Radio City before.
That's right, yes, he was indeed, yes, that's true, yes. I've lost contact with Alan now. We were great mates, but haven't seen him in many, many years. Maybe somebody might like to give me his address. This is Kay and Doug, and in the middle, that's their son. I'm not sure what the son's name was, but they used to bring supplies, as you can see on the thing, bring supplies out to the forts, to 390. Great friends of mine, but I've lost contact with them. They lived just off the coast of, I thought it was Whitstable there, where they lived, in that area, in Kent. Well, that's Sinkers and Jonathan Hall, and the other one in the middle, that's, okay.
That's it.
Are there any more? There should be.
I think that's it.
Well, that's Radio North Sea. That's Radio North Sea.
Rudy.
Yeah, there's Rudy there, Brian, Roger Kent and myself. But there should have been some other photographs of Radio 390. One of Jeff's fabulous cooking in the eating room, in the dining room we had. But apparently it was on the thing. That's Agatha, Andy Archer, and Rob Eaton on the left, and that's Amanda Dubois. She's in the middle. Yes.
Is it from Hogendorfstraat?
Well, no, that's right. That's right.
On the first floor, is it?
That's right. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. That's Tony Allen on Carol on the Mi Amigo. That's Jonathan Hall from 390.
Did you get the pictures from him?
No, I got them off my computer.
Oh!
I bought a computer for my 70th birthday on last April. I thought to myself, well, nobody ever gives me a present, so I'll buy one myself and step into the 21st century, but I still don't know how to work it. We had a reunion here. This was April this year in Amsterdam, and this is myself, and this is Rick Crandall from Swingin' Radio England. And they had a reunion in England for Radio England, and for some reason or other I didn't get invited. Not that that bothered me particularly, I didn't even know it was on. However, Rick was so upset about the fact that I hadn't been invited, and he said that I should have been and all the rest of it, but he thought possibly because they did all the invitations with emails and that could have been maybe a reason. But it didn't bother me one way or the other, I mean, you know. But so he really wanted to meet me again, so I was very pleased that he did, and Hans Knott telephoned me one day and said, Rick Crandall is in England and wants to come over to meet you before he goes back to America. I said, oh great, I said, I haven't seen him for years. And so we had a coffee one early morning, and we had a chat for about 2.5 hours, and a wonderful time. It was a nice reunion, and I'm glad it happened. It was really nice to see him after all these years. And that was taken outside the coffee shop in the Rokin in Amsterdam. Yeah.
I feel time is running out.
Yeah.
So
Time flies.
yes, time.
Fruit flies like bananas.
Tom Edwards.
Well, that's me. That's my short hair. But it says Tom Edwards down there.
Yes.
It's Tom Edwards' greatest hits.
Yes.
And that was on Radio England.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah. Oh well.
I very often see this picture, but I didn't recognize you.
Any of you can get these off a computer. Just switch on 390. Oh, that was another one.
Did you change the
So, yeah. That's me again, years in these days with short hair. But I'm sure there are more interesting things, pictures than that one.
Vielleicht nochmal so zum Abschluss euer Eindruck.
That's me and Tony Allen.
Oh, yeah.
Das Projekt,
In the old days.
das,
That was
Entschuldigung.
for Gareth. The Voice of Peace, that was when Tony was going to do that. Yeah.
On 1540.
Yeah.
From somewhere in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
we did see him 2 years ago.
Oh, here we are. There's me there, then there's Robin. This is on the Amiga. Me, Robin, Norman Barrington, Andy Archer with Tony behind him, Dick Palmer, and on the end, Elia. That was a long time ago. That's Ronan O'Reilly. That was the Caroline ship sinking down on the Amiga on the water.
Yeah, the mast was very stable.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Well, here we are. There's from left to right. There's me, Andy Archer, John Myers, Mickey,
Mercer?
Mickey Mercer, yeah, and Mike Hagler. Yeah. That's another one. Oh, that's on the back of, that's the Mi Amigo again. I'm not sure who's, it's a little blurry, that one there. Well, there's, oh wait a minute, I can pick out some of them. Up here you've got Johnny, I'm not sure who's on, I think one of the boys from the crew on the extreme left. And you've got Johnny Jason, me. Here is, not sure who that is. That's Rob Eden. That's Andy Archer, and I think that's probably Tony. It's so blurry, it's hard to see.
Hey.
Oh, there we are.
It's nice, no?
Yeah.
Under the 1967 Marine Offensive Broadcasting, it is legal to advertise, listen to, or support, what is it? In any way the pirate radio ship Mi Amigo, which broadcasts love, peace and good music in international waters.
But Radio 390 in actual fact was the last pirate ship I worked on before the Marine Offences Bill came into action. And then of course the reason why I went to Holland was mainly for my mother, who'd married a Dutch immigrant. My father died a long time ago, and she contacted me to say, on your way back to Australia, call into Holland. Your stepfather wants you to see his two nephews and niece in Rotterdam. So I went there, and then the rest is history. I came back to Amsterdam for a couple of days, ran into a Dutch film director and was offered work, and I'm still here. It's been going on and on and on and on. Of course, mind you, in those days, there was no unemployment for anybody. Oh, here we are. There's some more pictures. Now, on the extreme left is Paul Beresford. Then you've got David Sinclair, Jonathan Hall. I think that's John Bexley from the record library, the tall lad there. And Jeff the cook. There we are.
Yeah.
Here we are again on the left.
That's
I'm not sure who the one is on the extreme left. The middle one was one of the transmitter engineers with the glasses. That's Alan Cambridge. Alan passed away several years ago also. Middle there is Alan Clark, and what's his name from the record library, because the programs were made at 390. It was different to working, say, at Britain Radio or 390 or Radio London. You had a pile of records like that, and you had the program makers that put them up and say, oh, with a label on top, Tea Time Tunes or Master of the Organ and that, and you had to play the side that was up. And Peter James was listening in the opposite best place, and if you did, you thought, oh, that's shit. Turn on this and play that one. You would get into trouble, really. You'd get a memo out to say you better watch it.
That's an interesting.
Oh, here we are. Now this is going up on the thing
good.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
This is how they did it at the time, as you can see. And that's one of the fellow from the record, it was John Bexley, from the one of the boys in the program department that made the programs up. On the left with the glass, I'm not sure who that is or who the other one is. But we used to get visitors coming out to the forts as well, so possibly it would be some of those people, you know. But that's how we used to be, we brought up. We'd stand on this thing, and they'd pull us up, you see. Like,
No accidents at all?
not that I can recall. See, there's another one of it there. You see, mind you, I'm afraid of heights myself, so I was scared to death when to get up on that thing. But I just hung on and closed my eyes till I got to the top, you know. So, and so you can see over there, they're waiting for us to come up to pull us over. I see in the corner there, the photograph.
Yeah.
Now here, this particular photograph, I'm not sure, but I think on the extreme left there is Robin Adcroft, or Robin Banks.
Yes.
But Robin never actually worked for 390. I mean, he is doing some good things at the moment, refurbishing the forts, or Radio 390 fort, the Red Sands fort. So I don't know, I think that's Robin at the back, and the other fellow here, I don't know who that is at all. But this is the studio. You can see at 390 there, turntables and all the usual things. This yellow stuff at the back was a piece, actually, it's a piece of like curtain stuff to stop the sound, to make it so that it didn't echo. You see what I mean?
Has there been a window before in there?
I think possibly there had been a window,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Probably, but they blocked it up with wood and put that.
And the studio has been built according to NCBC, the New Zealand Broadcasting Corporation
Yeah.
standard.
This is the other studio here, yes. Probably, I suppose. I was never technical. I didn't bother to ask about all that.
Didn't bother about this, okay.
Of course, mind you, radio today is nothing like it was in the days of the pirate stations. I mean, or if I go back to my own career in Australia, where you could actually project your personality and entertain the people. This is the kitchen.
Cool.
Yes, that's David Sinclair, and then Roger Scott, then Paul Beresford, Jonathan Hall, Jeff the cook there. I think it was a Sunday roast dinner we had that time. At the back, that's the boy from the record library. There's me and Doug. He used to bring out the supplies.
Oh, I see.
It's like a nice leg of lamb, or a couple of leg of lamb, lamb's bouts, or what do you call it in Dutch, on Sunday. We had traditional English roast dinner, you know, or roast beef and Yorkshire pudding every Sunday. It was really fantastic.
Yes.
Bacon and eggs if you wanted it for breakfast, or you can have continental breakfast, whatever you like. It was really good there. That's David Sinclair again. There we are. It's going up on that thing there. Oh no, it's not. Yeah. Oh, it's not that thing. It's you know. No, I don't know any of those guys. I don't think. They're the new generation.
No, this is Andy Archer.
Oh, that's Andy. Oh, Andy.
You should know him, but
Yeah, it's a bit blurry in the picture.
What's the ranches?
Oh, then if that's Andy, that's Johnny Jason on here.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes,
That's Johnny.
because they also
Well, that would have been on the Caroline ship.
They all
On the
came
Amigo.
from-
There was a ranch.
Was it? Oh, maybe they were on there too. I don't know. Possibly. It's
they came from Ireland, most of them,
Yeah.
from Irish radio.
yeah. By that time, after the Marine Defences Bill came in, and then I was back with Radio Caroline for a time and Radio North Sea, and then the Dutch Marine Defences Bill came in. After that, I was working for 8 years for the Dutch World Service, same as BBC World Service. You know. This is the Gilsonen, which is my real name. That's our family crest. Or there are several versions of it, which I copied from a computer. I thought that Gilsonen was a rather exclusive name, because my mother always said it was a Celtic name and it came from somewhere up in Scandinavia, but she didn't know what country. And then with my computer, I started looking at these things, and some other Gilsons are actually flogging the damn thing. You've got to pay money for it, so I'm not going to pay for a family crest like that. But I put it on the thing just for the hell of it, you know, just for fun. That's another one of those things. So.
Fide at
No, I don't know.
32.
That's a friend of mine. He's a film actor in Czech Republic, actually. Just been going for about 3 or 4 years now. And you can see the family if you like as well.
I think we'll stop now.
All right, then. Okay.
Many thanks for showing us all
my
these
pleasure.
very interesting pictures. Ich möchte unsere kleine Runde damit beenden, dass ich euch noch eine Frage, ihr habt ja jetzt hautnah einen Eindruck bekommen.
Ja.
Lohnt sich die Arbeit, die der Robin Banks da machen will?
Ich denke, dass der Robin sehr viel geschafft hat. Also am Anfang habe ich gedacht, Project Red Sands, ja, wieder mal ein paar Anoraks, die was versuchen und niemals auf der Reihe kriegen. Aber wenn man bedenkt, dass sie schon was geschafft haben, die haben das Access-System geschafft, ja. Ne? Dann sind die also dabei, die ganzen Sachen, also haben die ja Taucher runtergeschickt und haben also auch von der Port Authority London, und die haben das ja auch umsonst gemacht dann, ne, und haben also dann geguckt, wie fest das verankert ist und was das für ein Material ist, und dann hat man festgestellt, dass es sich lohnen würde und also noch ein paar Jahre irgendwie halten könnte, und ja, ich finde das also schon sehr interessant, und was man bisher geschafft hat, ich finde das einfach unglaublich. Also das haben sonst noch keine Leute irgendwie so zustande gebracht, finde ich.
Reicht eure Fantasie aus, sich vorzustellen, dass da nochmal eine Radiostation senden wird?
Er hat ja immer sowas vor, also das...
Ja, ich denke, die Frage...
aber das dann, also digital hat er
die stellt sich im Augenblick noch nicht, denke ich mal. Sicher kann man davon träumen, wir sind ja alles Radioleute, und ich denke mal, man könnte sich vorstellen, also dass dann irgendwann wieder eine Radiostation dort sendet, vor allen Dingen, wir haben ja dann auch DRM, kommt ja auch noch, Digital Radio Mondial, und ja, ich muss sagen, das Wasser ist ein hervorragendes Gegengewicht zur Antenne, das heißt also, bei einer Leistung von 10 Kilowatt wäre das ein Signal wie 30 Kilowatt. Und das ist das, was Radio 390 damals auch hatte. Und wenn man sich das also digital vorstellt, ja, das ist schon eine tolle Sache, finde ich. Also da kann man jetzt im Augenblick nur von träumen, weil wie gesagt, im Augenblick muss das ja erstmal alles wieder aufgebaut werden.
Ja, eine Frage von Jahren.
Ich denke mal, das ist eine Frage von Jahren.
Seid ihr informiert darüber, gibt es irgendwelche Sponsoren, die sich da finanziell noch mit reinhängen, oder wie wird das Ganze finanziert? Ja,
da ist Molem Marine, ist halt diese Firma, genau, ja. Und dann gibt es noch eine andere Firma, ich weiß im Augenblick nicht, wie die heißt. Und wenn ich das richtig verstanden habe, ist Robin, also er hat also versucht, jetzt auch Ölgesellschaften halt dazu zu gewinnen. Ich weiß nicht, wie weit das jetzt gelungen ist, das kann ich jetzt nicht sagen. Und dann gab es noch die Geschichte mit British Heritage, das ist also eine, ja, wie sagen wir denn?
Erbgut.
Ja, genau, also eine staatliche Gesellschaft, die sich also um schützenswerte, um Denkmäler kümmert. Und die haben das also, die haben das alles gewürdigt und akzeptiert, aber laut Gesetz geht das nicht, weil das eben zu weit draußen ist und dort zu wenig Leute hinkommen können im Augenblick. Ne? Aber das soll sich ja noch ändern. Noch, ne? Und, im Augenblick, man ist also dann auch, also er macht auch eine sehr gute Public Relations, die waren in der BBC, die waren in sämtlichen Zeitungen drin, und das ist also schon eine tolle Sache. Und dadurch gelingt es also auch, halt auch neue Leute dazu zu gewinnen und auch die staatlichen Stellen davon zu überzeugen. Das heißt also, in Kent tut sich dann ein bisschen was von den Local Councils her, und man muss sehen, wie sich das weiterentwickelt. Aber die Chancen sind an sich, denke ich, für die Weiterentwicklung sehr gut. Nur wie schnell das gehen wird, das ist eine andere Frage.
Ist ja eigentlich immer noch am Anfang erst, weil er ja erst sehen will, ob das alles noch stabil ist. Weil deswegen die ganzen Untersuchungen, ob die Türme, ob das noch alles okay ist. Da gibt es
Laboratorien,
bevor die erstmal dann richtig loslegen können oder werden. Ne?
Da gibt es Laboratorien, wie gesagt, die untersuchen zurzeit das Material und gucken also, ob diese Brücken halten werden oder was man tun muss, damit diese Brücken dann halten. Das ist schon interessant, finde ich.
Also insofern haben wir heute einen Rückblick auf ein mehr als 60 Jahre altes rostendes Ding in der Nordsee gemacht und gleichzeitig doch auch noch so ein bisschen Ausblick nach vorne. Vielleicht gibt es ja tatsächlich noch eine Möglichkeit, das auch für Radiofreunde wieder interessant werden zu lassen.
Es ist auch ein Abenteuer, muss ich ganz kurz sagen. Also da gewesen zu sein und darauf zu krabbeln und das alles so zu sehen, aus der Sicht, wie man es früher gesehen hat, ist schon eine tolle Sache, muss man schon sagen.
Ich würde euch alle einladen, jetzt noch 5 Minuten Geduld zu haben, denn es gibt noch ganz interessantes Material, was bei der BBC gelaufen ist vor 3 Wochen. Der eine oder andere hat es vielleicht im Internet schon runtergeladen. Es ist ein Bericht von einem BBC-Reporter, der auch an Bord gewesen ist und auch eindrucksvolle Videobilder gemacht hat, auch vom Interieur und so weiter. Und John Ross Barnett,
Ja,
John Ross Barnett ist ein DJ
Okay,
on
also,
Radio 390. He was on board too.
So was Jack McLaughlin.
So I want to invite you to view some video footage of 5 minutes.
Oh, wonderful, yes.
It was broadcast on BBC 3 weeks ago.
Okay, fine.
Okay, also das Video könnten wir jetzt als nächstes laufen lassen.
Anschließend machen wir dann die
Anschließend kommt dann
Offshore Echoes. Die
Offshore
Geschichte, die
Echo,
Geschichte.
dann kommt die Geschichte
Aber
nochmal zusammengefasst.
kann man das Feld räumen und dann
Da hinten,
Ja,
da hinten.
vielleicht
We'll
ist
get out of the way, they
Ja,
can see the
okay.
picture. Okay.
darf ich das haben?
Ja,
Danke.
so.
Bitte schön.